Protection is not a place you run to. It is the presence you wake up to. In the very instant fear rises, the opportunity for awakening appears. The alarm bell of the senses is not a summons to the door, or the telephone, or the newspaper. It is a bell ringing in the sanctuary of your own being, saying, "Turn within. Be still. I in the midst of you am mighty." Not after you get to your destination, not after you lock the door, not after you gather opinions and statistics, but here, where you are, because God is, and where God is, safety is not a hope, but an is. We are living, you and I, in unstable times, so they tell us. Markets sway and headlines shout, bodies complain, relationships strain, and plans seem fragile. But hear me, the instability of the outer scene is the very reason the secret sanctuary must be discovered within. Not a cave in a mountain, not a vault made with human hands, but the temple not made with hands, eternal in the heavens of your own consciousness. God is omnipresence. Therefore, God is present as the life of you, as the mind of you, as the fortress of you. God is omnipotence. Therefore, no power stands over against the presence that is your very breath. God is omniscience. Therefore, guidance is not a guess, but a light that knows the way before your foot touches the path. Our greatest difficulty is not the outer condition. Let us be honest. The sea has always had waves. Empires have always boasted and broken. Bodies have always changed their complaints. The great mistake is our habit of looking outward for guarantees instead of inward for realization, of trying to make the visible our refuge and then wondering why fear keeps the keys. We have made talismans of locks and policies and memorized phrases, and, even walked around with eyeglasses and said, "I am safe, I am spiritual, I am untouched." And the very need to say it betrayed the uneasiness beneath it. Not "I am safe," but God is safety. Not "I am protected," but God is the fortress and high tower. Not "I am wise enough to avoid trouble," but the Father within me doeth the works. So we said our refrain, not as poetry to soothe for an evening, but as a fact to be proved in daily living. I in the midst of you am mighty. Listen to it until it listens back. Let it be the tone that underlies your shopping and your driving and your reading of the news. Hear, in the quiet of your own heart, a gentle voice. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Fear not. I will never leave you nor forsake you. This is not theology, and it is not a lullaby. It is communion, inner contact that functions as shelter, as guidance, as practical protection wherever the human scene would tempt you into panic. Begin now. Do not wait for calmer weather to learn to sail. Close your eyes, if only for a breath, and realize there is an I here, not the I that boasts or trembles, but the I that was before Abraham was, the I that neither slumbers nor sleeps. Acknowledge it. Yield to it. Consent to it. Let the infinite invisible announce itself as your very midst, and watch how fear, which fed on your outward searching, starves when you rest in the presence that is already where you are. Protection begins in that instant, and it travels with you because it is you, God expressing as your being, a living sanctuary you can enter in any street, any office, any room of your own home. Let us be very clear now and very honest, because this is the point at which we either continue the old circle or step into a new life. The human reflex is almost automatic. Danger whispers, and we reach for structures. We lay up money and call it cushion. We change the locks and call it safety. We buy policies and call it coverage. We make alliances and call them security. We draft plans, A through Z, and believe that if we can get ahead of the curve, we will be protected. Then, when all of that is in place, we say, "There, I have protection." And if someone asks about our spirituality, we pat our pocket, we tap the door bolt, we point to the calendar, and we whisper our little mantra, "I am safe." But if the heart is still pounding at every headline, what is it we mean by spiritual? Not safety by visible arrangements, but safety by reliance on the infinite invisible. Not protection by human outlining, but by inner government. Not, "I am secure because I have," but God is the rock and the high tower, and where God is, I rest. Hear the contrast and feel the correction. Not, "I am safe," but God is safety. Not, "I will make it work," but the Father within me doeth the works. If the visible is our refuge, fear remains in control, because the visible can be counted, measured, stolen, broken, and so fear must always be posted as a guard at its gate. But when our reliance is in the presence that cannot be seen, counted, or threatened, protection is not a fence around a yard. It is the life within the flower that keeps it unfolding in any weather. Do not misread me. Wisdom is not thrown away. You may use a lock. You may carry insurance. You may make a plan. You may see a counselor or a lawyer. But let us no longer bow down to these as gods and then be shocked that idols wobble on their pedestals. The issue is not the presence of means, but the place of trust. Is the steel plate the protection? Or is the Word of God the protection? Does a document on a desk defend you? Or does the presence that says, "Lo, I am with you," go before you to make the crooked places straight? You already know the answer in your quieter moments, and fear knows it too, which is why it tries to keep you noisy. We have paraded around with our, "I am spiritual," "I am perfect," "I am harmonious," and still jumped at the night noises, counted the bank book before sleep, and winced at a certain phone number. If we are spiritual in the sense we boast, what is this mastery fear has over our hours? Let us put down this "I am" business and take up the realization, God is. God is omnipresence. Therefore, there is no place where safety is not. God is omnipotence. Therefore, there is no power to oppose the presence that is your life. God is omniscience. Therefore, guidance is not your guesswork, but the light that goes before you. And now see how the whole premise turns. If the source is within, the sanctuary is portable. It is not tied to a neighborhood, a safe, a schedule, or a sympathetic friend. It walks with you into the hospital room. It stands by you in the courtroom. It keeps vigil in the sleepless night. It meets the breaking headline with the unbroken refrain, "I in the midst of you am mighty. Look to me. Look within." Stand still inwardly and let the inner government direct the outward step. Then protection ceases to be a fragile arrangement and becomes an immediate presence. Not sometimes, not when conditions permit, but wherever you are, because I am where you are. Fear cannot command the day where reliance is returned to the infinite invisible. Let us take the next honest step and look at why fear seems to have so much evidence in its favor. It is not because danger is enthroned. It is because suggestion is believed. In the old illustration I have used, a hypnotist puts a man to sleep and whispers, "There is a white poodle under your chair." The man awakens, eyes open, mind shut. And immediately he lifts his feet, rearranges his coat, tells the neighbor to be careful, and spends the evening in careful, anxious accommodation to a dog that isn't there. He will not sit back in his seat. He will not rest his briefcase. He will walk a wide circle around the chair. Devotion to a phantom. And if you ask him why, he has reasons. He has very good reasons. He can describe the poodle's size, the whiskers, perhaps the gleam of the collar. You cannot argue him out of it, because he is not seeing. He is believing a suggestion. Now bring that right up to this hour. The hypnotist of our time is the stream of alerts and prophecies and pictures that march across our senses. There is a recession under your chair. There is a diagnosis under your chair. There is a neighbor's anger, a political upheaval, a trend line pointing down under your chair. And, like the well-meaning man at the meeting, we adjust. We bend our life around the push notification. We ration our peace according to charts. We postpone obedience to inner direction because a commentator said, "Not safe." We stiffen our back, clench our jaw, call it prudence, and then wonder why we go to bed as if we had been pulling a loaded wagon all day. Here is the key that breaks the spell. You do not heal a suggestion. You awaken from it. You do not battle the poodle. You open your eyes. You do not outshout the headline. You withdraw your belief and turn to what is. Not, "I am stronger than this." Not, "I am safe because I affirm it." But God is. God is omnipresence. Therefore, where is the place for a second power to intrude? God is omnipotence. Therefore, what force is left to threaten the life that God is being as you? God is light, and you do not fight darkness. You turn on the light. The snake in the rope is not killed. The rope is recognized, and the fright dissolves. The railroad tracks never meet on the horizon. You awaken to perspective, and the terror of collision disappears. See how suffering is manufactured by misperception. We live in reaction, and reaction becomes habit. And the habit takes a religious tone, and we call the tightness wisdom. We budget for fear. We schedule around dread. We think that worrying is the same as loving our family, and that suspicion is the same as stewardship. All the while, the heart pleads for the secret place, the inner sanctuary where suggestion cannot enter because it has no one to whisper to. Now quietly, turn. Look to me. Look to me. Look within. This is the sanctuary where the only authority is the presence that says, "Lo, I am with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you." Here, suggestion loses its crown because it meets no believer. It meets the I. Stand still and feel this refrain take on weight, not as words, but as being. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Let that be the awareness before which the white poodle of our time vanishes. Do not promise to be brave. Consent to be awake. Do not tighten to protect. Rest to realize. In that realization, the infinite invisible governs the outward step, clarifies the next phone call, the next treatment, the next purchase or refusal to purchase. Protection appears as wisdom, as timing, as calm, as a door closed and another opened. Because protection was never the fence. Protection is the presence. And in that presence, no suggestion has authority. No headline has ultimacy. And no phantom needs managing. Let us take up the next piece of correction. Because unless we make this turn, you will carry yesterday's method into today's revelation and wonder why it does not work. The little habit of walking around whispering, "I am protected, I am safe, I am harmonious," so often strengthens not the presence, but the persona that is trying to be safe. You know the one, noble, anxious, peering out the window to see if the words are working yet. That personal I is the worrier. That personal I is the chaser. That personal I is the one that keeps score. To feed it with spiritual-sounding words is to give the beggar a crown and then be surprised that he still begs. The spiritual logic is simple, and it is liberating. The personal sense of I cannot create safety, because it lives by contrast. It knows itself only against danger, and so it must keep danger close to maintain its identity. It can only chase, never arrive. But the presence is safety itself, the very life that you are not by declaration, but by derivation. The branch does not make the sap flow by saying, I am full of life. The life of the vine is the fullness of the branch. So with us, not by self-assertion, but by realization. Not by inflating the mask, but by yielding to the face behind it. Therefore, our language turns, and with it, our center of gravity. Not I am protected, but God is omnipresence. Where could a second presence come from or go to? Not I am strong, but God is omnipotence. What rival remains when the one is all? Not I know what to do, but God is omniscience, and the light that knows the way is the light that is your awareness. Not I will make this work, but the Father within me doeth the works. Do you feel the rest in that? The shoulders drop, the breath returns. The race is over before it begins because the goal was never out there. Now hear the living refrain with new ears. I in the midst of you am mighty. This is not the voice of the anxious ego trying on robes. This is the indwelling Christ, the divine I that says, Lo, I am with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. It is the I that was before Abraham was. It is the I of which the Master testified, I can of mine own self do nothing. When this I announces itself at the center of your being, the personal I bows and disappears like a shadow at noon, and with it goes the need to keep affirming what the sun is already being. So we will not polish the mirror of the little I. We will turn to the light. We are going to commune until this is more than language, until the government of the presence is felt. Felt as calm in the nerves, as rhythm in the breath, as order in the day. For a moment, even now, be still. Say nothing for yourself. Let the heart whisper only, God is. God is life. God is law. God is here. And in that holy hush, consent to hear the ancient, present word. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Make your daily contact with me, and the need for bravado will vanish. For safety will no longer be a hope. It will be the nature of the one living as you. Now, become very still, not as a feat of concentration, but as a simple consent. Before any hopeful thought, and before any fearful thought, there is awareness. There is an I here. Do not try to dress it. Do not explain it. Just notice that the one who hears these words is not a thought about you. It is you, aware. This I preceded today's plans and will remain when the last item is crossed off the list. It was present before the headline and remains after the headline has yellowed and folded into yesterday. Be still and let that be recognized. And now, let us be precise about what this I is not. It is not your name. Names change, and you answer to them as you would to a doorbell. It is not your history. History is a scrapbook, tender perhaps, but still a book of pictures. It is not your bank account. Those numbers rise and fall as the tide and are not the ocean. It is not your diagnosis. Words applied to conditions on the screen. The screen is not the projector. It is not your role. Parent, partner, patient, professional. These are garments you wear in certain rooms. All of these are appearances, real enough as pictures, passing as clouds, never the sky. What then is this I? It is the point of contact with the Father within, the temple not made with hands. It is where the infinite invisible is consciously known as the very life and law of your being. It is the presence announcing itself as your midst. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Here, listen not as if to a distant scripture, but as to present speech. Fear not, I am with thee. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. When this is heard within your own awareness, it is not sentiment, it is shelter. It is not escape, it is authority. This is the secret sanctuary. Not a hiding place from life, but the place from which life is rightly seen and therefore rightly met. From here, the outer picture is not obeyed. Truth is obeyed, and the picture conforms. From here, the next step is not taken under the lash of fear, but under the light of guidance. God is omnipresence. Therefore, the sanctuary is wherever you are. God is omnipotence. Therefore, no rival power enters here. God is light. Therefore, you do not wrestle with shadows. You see. Enter daily. Close the door of the senses, not forever, just for now. Let the breath find its rhythm. Whisper nothing for the persona. Let the heart say only, God is. God is life. God is law. God is here. Then be still long enough to hear the answering word. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Rest in that until the fear that demanded action loosens its grip. And then go out, not armored by self-assertion, but carried by presence. In that way, the sanctuary walks with you. The fortress is within you. And the changing pictures find their government in the one that does not change. Now let us make this very simple and very usable, because truth that is not lived becomes another ornament on the mantle of metaphysics. The refrain is our treatment without strain. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. When fear rises, don't argue, don't negotiate, don't run a debate society in your head. Turn at once and rest your attention in this. Whisper it if you must, breathe it if you can, but above all, consent to it. Let it be repeated not as magic words to force a result, but as a bell that calls you back to the sanctuary until the words dissolve into an atmosphere, until you can feel that withinness that is presence and no longer need to clutch the syllables. Midst. Hear that word. Midst means not later, not when the report improves, not after you have arranged 3 phone calls and 2 guarantees. Midst means right in the thick of it, in the very room, in the very sensation, in the very hour others call dangerous. Midst means the elevator, the night watch, the meeting, the drive, the hand you are holding, the tear you are wiping. If God is omnipresence, where is the edge of that presence that you must cross to be safe? There is no edge. Therefore, in the midst is the only place there is. Mighty. Hear that word too. Not the might of clenched teeth or superior human planning, not a surge of will that outshouts circumstances. Mighty is the effortless authority of omnipresence, power that does not have to come from somewhere to get to you, because it is the very life of you. Mighty cannot be excluded by walls, distance, schedules, or threats. Mighty is not a contest. It is the fact that where the one is all, a second power is nowhere. This is why the refrain is not bravado. It is recognition. Practice the holy negation followed by the real. Not something is out there to get me, but God is here. Not I am alone, but I am accompanied by presence that says, "Lo, I am with you." Not I must make this come out right, but the Father within me doeth the works. Not I hope I remember this teaching when it matters, but I in the midst of you am mighty, and therefore it matters me now. Do you see what follows in your own being when you return to the refrain as atmosphere rather than argument? The body begins to tell the truth. The shoulders settle. The stomach releases its fist. The breath finds a longer shore. The mind stops racing because it is no longer hired to be God. And in that stillness, the next right step shows itself as naturally as a path appears when fog lifts. Protection, then, is not a box around you. It is calm intelligence within you, timing that holds you 10 minutes until the safer road is clear, a hesitation that turns into guidance, a no that saves you from a glittering trap, a yes that opens a door no human could have picked. Now take a moment, even with eyes open if you must, and let the refrain speak itself. I in the midst of you am mighty. Do not try to believe it. Let it be. Let it roll out like a tide across the stones of your thought. Let it wash the pictures without arguing them. Let it enter the room of your awareness until the room belongs to it. And when you stand to move into the next minute, you will not be carrying a sentence. You will be carried by presence. Then the hypnotism loses its subject. Fear loses its stage. And the infinite invisible finds utterance as your composure, your clarity, your quiet, practical safety. Bring it down to the floor where your feet are. In the hospital corridor, when shoes squeak and the clock grows loud, do not make a god of the chart or of your ability to interpret it. Stand still within. You can walk the hall, answer the nurse, sign the paper, and still stand still inwardly. Turn from the picture to the presence, and let the heart hear. I in the midst of you am mighty. God is life. Therefore, the life of your loved one is not a gamble on a graph, but the activity of God being life. God is law. Therefore, there is an order higher than guesswork, and it governs this room. Then, notice how reaction quiets and revelation begins to order the hour. An impulse to speak one calm sentence to the attendant that clarifies the issue. A sense to wait rather than press. A simplicity that lets the physician be an instrument instead of an idol. Sometimes the protection is a treatment discovered. Sometimes a procedure declined. Sometimes the strength to rest without torment. Always it is the absence of panic and the presence of guidance. In the courtroom, do not look first to the judge, to the brilliance of counsel, to the weight of precedent. Look within. Stand still, even as you stand to speak. God is justice. Therefore, justice is not a mood in a robe, but the activity of the one that is no respecter of persons. God is intelligence. Therefore, a mind not your own is your sufficiency in this moment. Then watch the evidences of protection. A point you had forgotten rises unbidden. A hardened face softens. A delay occurs that seems inconvenient but opens a better door. Or a swift conclusion ends a torment you feared would stretch on. Reaction tightens and scrambles. Revelation quiets and directs. Sometimes to act, sometimes to wait, always without panic. When war news shouts and maps bleed colors, when markets reel and the family chat fills with dread, refuse enlistment in the army of fear. Do not argue headlines, awaken from them. God is omnipresence, therefore no place on that map is outside of God. God is omnipotence, therefore no second power is organizing harm as law. Stand still inwardly, and let the refrain claim the room. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Protection may appear as a changed itinerary, a check of brakes you would have postponed, a 10-minute delay that saves you from the very corner where trouble erupted, an unexpected provision that meets an obligation when arithmetic said no. You will find that timing is a language of God. In the tense meeting, do not look first to the employer's favor or the client's mood. Look within. God is supply. Therefore, your livelihood is not a personality's whim, but the unfoldment of being. Then the tongue is bridled from self-defense, and a concise sentence is given you that clears fog. Or a no rises that preserves your integrity and is met, to your surprise, with respect rather than reprisal. Hearts are softened when the human will is silent before the inner I. And in the home, the home. When the child's fever climbs, or a partner's voice rises. When the pot boils and the phone rings, and dread tries to pass for love. Refuse the draft into panic. Do not make a god of the thermometer. Do not make a god of your fear for their future. Stand still within. God is presence. Therefore you are not two frightened persons in a room, but one presence expressing as two. The protection there may look like an intuition to open a window, to cool a room, to call for help rather than prove a point, to keep silence for 1 minute more until the sharp edge passes. And the greatest proof of protection in that room is fearless stability, the climate of peace that arrests contagion of fear, the atmosphere in which wise action becomes obvious. Do not, then, look first to the judge, the doctor, the employer, the partner, the friend. Look within, then you will meet them rightly. Use means without bowing to them. Walk, speak, sign, drive, decide, but stand still inwardly. Reaction is the old slave master. Revelation is the inner governor. And protection is proved where fear seems most justified, not by tightening, not by bravado, but by yielding to the mighty in the midst, who governs the outward step with quiet accuracy, who prevents the accident you never knew approached, who provides from directions you could not have outlined, who makes of your very composure a shelter for those entrusted to your care. Look to me. Look within. Stand still, and you will see the salvation of the Lord in earth-plain ways today. Now let us outfit ourselves, not with charms, but with practice. Never permit a day to pass without some quiet, peaceful communion, because fear feeds where contact is neglected, and suggestion gets loud when the inner ear is untrained. This is not a heroic assignment, it is spiritual equipment. Think of a soldier without shoes, a pilot without instruments. That is the human without communion, walking bravely into hours and wondering why bruises multiply. Make your daily contact with me, not as pleading, not as outlining, but as consenting. God is. God is presence. God is law. God is life. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Communion is not begging God to come down and do a thing. Communion is yielding to the government already present. It is not, keep me safe today, as if safety were outside, waiting to be rented by the hour. It is, Father, thy will is the only will. Reign. It is listening more than speaking, receiving more than arranging. It is turning from the picture to the presence and letting the inner I be the voice of the hour. Lo, I am with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Keep the rhythm simple and frequent. Begin the day before the wheels start to spin. Sit for a minute or three and let the words be few. God is. God is here. Then wait and let the answering word form within. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Through the day, return, not long strain, just frequent consent. At the red light, before the call, while washing a cup, before you press send. Give 10 seconds to the inner governor. 3 slow breaths that say nothing for the persona and everything for presence are enough to change authorship, from reaction to revelation. Prepare for resistance. The mind will say, I don't have time. You do not have time for fear either, and fear is time-consuming. It sends you on errands that never end. The mind will insist on one long, spectacular session tomorrow. Let it talk while you keep today's quiet, ordinary pauses. The infinite invisible does not require ceremony. It requires availability. 10 clean seconds of God will do more for your safety than 10 anxious hours of strategizing about poodles under chairs. What will this steady contact do? Guidance becomes natural. You stop forcing decisions and start recognizing them. Supply becomes normal. You find that needed ideas, help, opportunities appear as if by a timing you could not have plotted. Relationships stop exploding at every spark because the atmosphere of your being is cooled by presence. Protection ceases to be a special intervention and becomes the background hum of intelligence, an unplanned wait that avoids harm, a nudge to look again, a reluctance that spares you a costly signature, a simple yes that opens a better door. You will not always know what you were spared. You will know that peace did the sparing. Do not grade your communion by fireworks. Some days it will feel dry. Then be faithful and remember, God is. Some days it will feel luminous. Then be humble and remember, God is. In time, the refrain will go on by itself, like a river under the city you are walking, so that even when you forget to say it, it says you. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. This is not a luxury. It is equipment. Put it on daily. Let the brief, honest pause return you again and again to the sanctuary, and the sanctuary will be immediate wherever you stand. Look to me. Look within. Stand still and walk on. There comes a point, and it can be quiet as dawn, when you notice that you are no longer asking to be kept safe. You are living from safety itself. The air of fear that once pressed upon you now appears as weather, not climate. A changeable surface moving over a sky that does not share its agitation. This is the mystical turn. You cease to arrange a protected life and begin to abide in the protected consciousness. Not I am defended, but God is my atmosphere. Not, I am holding it together, but the infinite invisible is the law and life of this very being. God is omnipresence, and therefore safety is not a fence, but a fact. God is omnipotence, and therefore protection is not a contest, but the nature of the One. God is light, and therefore the path is not forced, it is revealed. In that awareness, the old persona loosens its costume. The name, the scrapbook of victories and injuries, the familiar case for why you must always be on guard. All of it fades like stage makeup in the rain. You are not improved clay. You are God expressing its infinite nature as your individuality. The branch has given up pretending to be the vine and has found that the sap never was outside. The life you are is borrowed from no circumstance. It is derived of God. Not, Joel is now spiritual. Not, Mary is finally strong. But God is being the individuality called Joel, the individuality called Mary. And when God is the one being itself as you, what remains to be frightened or flattered? This is why the instruction to die daily is tenderness, not terror. Each time fear rises and you return, not to argument, but to presence, something personal dies and something spiritual is born. A habit of control falls off. A holiness of trust grows up. A reflex to defend dissolves. A capacity to discern appears. The little I that had to have outcomes lets go, and the inner I that is outcome-free stands forth as composure, as clarity, as that unhurried yes or no that you could not manufacture. You may not notice the funeral, but you will feel the resurrection. I and the Father are one becomes no longer a boast or a posture. It becomes a surrender. The separate self stops trying to sit beside God and, relaxing its grasp, discovers that companionship is identity. Father within, do thy will. I can of my own self do nothing. The words I speak are not mine. Then the union speaks back, gently and with power. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. This is the mystical wedding, not a rapture to escape earth, but a marriage that gives earth its right government. The two that seemed two are one, and the Holy Ghost is the communion between. Do not expect a single summit and then a descent into the same old valley. Expect ripening. Expect the vow to deepen, today in a hallway, tomorrow in a boardroom, next week in a sleepless night, and with each return a further dying to the anxious arranger and a fuller birth of the indwelling I. This is not the goal of a protected human self. This is conscious union with the presence that is protection itself. Let the practice you have been faithful to become your residence. Remain in me. Let me remain in you. Keep the simple refrain as atmosphere until it no longer needs to be said, because it is being you. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Then walk on, unhurried and unafraid, not carrying safety like luggage, but breathing it as your life. Now let us finish where all true beginnings are. In stillness. Close your eyes if you can, not as a performance, but as a kindness. Lay down the day's pictures, the faces, the lists, the headlines, the private rehearsals. Let them go by as leaves on a stream. Before the pictures and after them, there is awareness. There is an I here. Do not outfit it. Do not interrogate it. Just notice the gentle fact of being. God is. God is presence. God is law. God is life. Let those 3 or 4 words be enough, and in that hush, wait. Consent. Do not reach outward. Yield inwardly, and hear the answering word that has been speaking all along. Now hear me, and let it be intimate, not distant scripture. Fear not, I am in the midst of you. I am mighty. I am your light in night seasons, and your rest when striving makes you weary. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I in the midst of you am mighty. Stand still and know me. Do not try to hold me, you could not lose me. Do not try to instruct me, let me govern. My presence is your safety, my law is your order, my peace is your guide. Seal it with the holy not but. Not trust in outer arrangements, but trust in the infinite invisible. Not frantic planning, but inner listening. Not fear management, but awakening. Not, I will be safe if everything lines up, but God is omnipresence. Therefore, safety is the nature of being, not a bargain made with hours and events. Not, I must control, but the Father within me doeth the works. Let the shoulders drop, and let the race end in this instant, because the goal was never miles away. It was this presence, already here. Make it simple, and make it daily. Before sleep, enter the sanctuary. A minute, 2, 5, no strain. God is. God is here. Then receive the gentle refrain. I in the midst of you am mighty. Yield the whole day back into the infinite invisible and rest. On waking, before you pick up a name and a plan, return. God is. Let the first thought be presence rather than problem. Through the day, touch it often. At the sink, at the door, at the screen, on the curb. 10 quiet seconds that say nothing for the persona and everything for the one. Look to me. Look within. Stand still. And then proceed with the step I give you, unhurried and accurate. Take this assurance with you, and let it take you. The sanctuary is not far. It is within. You do not have to earn presence. You only have to consent to it. The infinite invisible is your atmosphere. The inner eye is your fortress. Walk on, not carrying safety like luggage, but breathing it as your life. Keep the simple refrain as climate until it becomes your quiet identity. I in the midst of you am mighty. Now rest and rise and live from here.